caring to.
What if I can? What if I can bring Dad back?
It all starts when a little baby named Pepper comes into this world. With the passage of days, his father James begins to be really worried about him, seeing that he does not manage to have a suitable height for his age. Due to his size, Pepper from a very young age is the victim of ridicule and abuse from his friends, colleagues, and neighbors, who contemptuously call him little boy. 7 years later, everything changes in the Pepper family, when they are very sad to say goodbye to James, the Pepper father, who has to fight in the war, since his eldest son London was rejected when he wanted to assimilate into the army, so his father had to go in his place. The little boy still can't believe it. Well, for him, his father's departure breaks his heart, and takes him away from his adventure partner. Since Pepper and James were very close, and they shared time with their imaginary games of fighting with thieves and in their trips across the seas. His father always supported him to go to the presentations of the super magician Ben Eagle, of whom the boy was his admirer.
Why can't we stay together?
Before leaving, his father promises the little boy that he will return very soon, despite the uncertain truth. Days later, his mother Emma goes with her son Pepper to the medical control as usual, to continue evaluating his growth, which continues without making much progress in this regard. Dr. Foss shows a special interest in Emma, so schedule an upcoming appointment as the perfect excuse to see her again very soon. And coincidentally, Freddie, the doctor's son, is one of the children who always annoys Pepper, so that the doctor does not miss the opportunity to remind him of his small size by calling him
little boy.
Since James' absence, London has taken control of the business, which hasn't been doing very well of late. As the days go by, Pepper misses his father very much and is sure that he will return soon. Very excited, he goes to a store, and with his savings he buys his father some boots, to give them to him when he returns. He also takes advantage and buys some movie tickets to see his favorite magician Ben Eagle together. But things are not how the Pepper family expected. When his mother is informed that James, apparently, has been sent to a tactical operation in the Philippines and nothing more is heard from him. Perhaps he has lost his life or been taken as a prisoner of war. This news makes Pepper very sad, who already feels lonely and friendless, as Freddie continues to bully him for his small size. The days go by, and even without hearing from his father, the little boy continues to grow sadder, depressed, and not wanting to eat, while his mother, very worried, tries to cheer him up. So London, at his mother's request, takes Pepper to the cinema to see the movie he used to see with his father, leaves him and goes to have a drink while the show ends. Later, in the church, the small and creative Pepper listens very attentively to the preacher when he shows his concern for not knowing what to do to help the relatives in combat, and in his speech, he mentions how the mustard seed with its small size, but with immense faith, you can move a great mountain. As the preacher finishes speaking, Pepper wonders if a mustard seed could really have such powers. And faced with that doubt, he decided to go look for one of the seeds. Suddenly, the boy runs into a Japanese samurai. And he immediately runs out to tell his older brother what he had seen. But nobody explains how it is possible that this man was free. Yes, after what happened at Pearl Harbor they all remained locked up. But soon, the doubt is cleared, when the release of the Japanese who showed loyalty to the American government is revealed. So Pepper's brother looks at the Asian as an enemy, and immediately goes to him, snatches the basket while telling him that he will not attend to it, but is surprised by a preacher, who, given the situation presented, decides to pay his bill. As night falls, the brothers go to burn down the Japanese house, but London accidentally falls and starts a bigger fire. At that moment both are discovered by the police, who arrest London and punish Pepper with penances. Pepper, very confused, tells the preacher that all he wants to know is how to make his father come home. Then the preacher assigns him a list of things to do so that his desire to move mountains grows even more. Among the many tasks that the preacher assigns him, the most important is that he must be friends with a Japanese man. And as expected, Pepper reacts and astonished tells him that he cannot be a friend of Hashimoto, since he is an enemy of the nation, and because of him many people have had to leave their homes and go to war. Then the preacher tells him that if he feels hatred in his heart, faith does not work. For this reason the little boy agrees to be a friend of the Japanese. Fulfilling your tasks, Pepper goes to the Japanese man's house and gives him a gift, but the man leaves it in the trash. The little one insists, but apparently it doesn't have a good result. One day, after so many failed attempts, Hashimoto invites the boy for a walk, and calls him Little Boy, the nickname with which everyone identifies him. When they arrive at an ice cream parlor, the boy realizes that no one wants to serve them. And that for 40 years no one has wanted Hashimoto in town. Later, they visit London, who is still in prison. When leaving, Pepper realizes that they want to attack him.
Where do you think you're going, little boy?
But the Japanese, seeing him, helps him. They continue walking, but this time, the little one is dedicated to fulfilling the other tasks on the list and takes Hashimoto to the hospital to visit an injured person, but again they make a bad face at the Asian.
You can keep it.
When they leave there, they are going to fulfill the next task, which is to give a place to the needy, so they buy pajamas and build a bed to give it to a very poor friend of the Pepper family. Back home, his excited friend Hashimoto tells the boy the story of a short Japanese warrior who came to defeat many enemies, and even a giant, who was almost impossible to defeat, but he succeeded thanks to his intelligence. The next day, Freddy attacks him and pushes him, but this time Pepper was filled with courage and intelligence and defended himself against his enemy.
That motherless pig!
Almost all the tasks are complete. It only remains to invite a friend to eat. Then the little boy prepares to receive Hashimoto at his house. Emma receives him suspiciously, but a while later, they are surprised by London, who arrives threatening the Japanese, and before everyone's astonished gaze, points a shotgun at him to make him leave of the house. Peppers, embarrassed, interferes, but his brother tells him to back off and never speak to the Japanese man again.
This is all your fault!
Pepper explains that the Japanese is his friend and he is not a bad man. But London thinks Pepper is there because he assures her that he has enough faith for his father to return safely from the war.
What if I can't bring Dad back?
That is why his brother, very upset with him, challenges him and arrogantly asks him to move the mountain that is in the background.
Move it for everyone!
Pepper, you are about to prove what it says. But they make fun of him, and after several attempts, surprisingly the earth begins to shake and affects several of the houses. The boy became very famous throughout the town, because some say that the mountain moved with the tremor, while others just say it's a coincidence. The boy believes that he must stop the war, so that his father returns. Excited, he tells the Japanese a plan that he intends to develop, and for this, he asks him to tell him where Japan is. He immediately heads to the pier, and in front of everyone's eyes he tries his best over and over again to pull off a miracle to stop the war, but since nothing happens, he keeps trying for days. Until one day he becomes very popular when everyone shouts at him that he has achieved it. But in the midst of the confusion, Pepper does not understand anything, until a lady approaches him and reads him a news story that says, Hiroshima has been destroyed by the force of the atomic bomb thanks to a small child. Pepper is happy and everyone celebrates because the war is over and soon he will be able to see his father again.
I did it!
But the joy was short-lived, when they warned their mother of the danger that the Japanese would take revenge with the lives of the prisoners of war.
Colonel Bob said that.
From that moment on, the little boy begins to have nightmares about the war and all its scenarios. This leaves him in deep despair. The next day, in a moment of madness, London along with other men attack Hashimoto and leave him seriously injured, but London reacts to seeing him and, remorseful, takes him to the hospital and turns himself into the police. When Pepper finds out, he immediately goes to visit his friend in the hospital and manages to talk to him. But at that moment, Hashimoto worsens and is treated in an emergency. On the other hand, they break the news of James's physical loss to Emma, and Dr. Foss once again tries to have a loving relationship with Emma, but she refuses, claiming that she will be faithful to her husband even after his death. And just when everyone is plunged into sadness, they unexpectedly receive the good news that Pepper's father had been mistaken for the man who stole her shoes. So James isn't dead and he's on his way home. James is greeted with loving hugs from all his loved ones, and the little boy finally gives him the boots he was able to buy with his savings. The family is united again, with the faith and hope that little boy taught them. This is the summary of a Christian film of faith and hope, called Little Boy. Click here and don't miss the next story.